Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a massive afternoon of racing here around the absolutely phenomenal Phillip Island circuit. We are here today for the OZICAR Tin Top Cup. It's a bit of a mouthful. Tin Top Cup here today, the 5th annual Tin Top Cup, of course. Here, a big thank you to the series for giving me the opportunity to cover for Jay Kennedy from SimSpeed, who unfortunately had to pull out at the last minute, and so I've come in to cover for him here today. But it's going to be a massive day of racing. 3 different car types with a bit of BOP, all classified against each other. The GR86, the Toyota GR86, the Renault Clio Cup car, and the Ford Mustang FR500S. All of these cars are going to be battling it out around here at Phillip Island here today for glory and for bragging rights, and the one to be to raise up that TTC at the end of the race. Of course, this track is well known across the whole world for many different racing series, including the MotoGP, Supercars Championship, TCRs, FR5000, or the S5000s racing around here as well. So it's a fast flowing circuit, 4.4 Ks, located just outside of Cowes here in Victoria in Phillip Island. Let's bring up the old Google Maps imagery here for us to check out what the track is going to be looking like here tonight. So of course we're in Australia, in our home country for the majority of us here, but down in Victoria you can just see it located there just at the bottom of the map. This is just to give you a comparison as well to where some other major cities or major tracks are all over Australia here as we scroll on down into Phillip Island here in Victoria. As I mentioned, it's just outside of Cowes, the biggest town on the island, of course. This track, 12 corners, 4.4 Ks. These drivers will be doing roughly 242 kilometers here tonight, 55 laps around this circuit. It's going to be no small feat. We start out on the Gardner Straight. It is an anti-clockwise layout. We go down towards Doohan Corner, turn number 1, one of the fastest on the whole track, and also one of the most dangerous as well. Then we head down to the Southern Loop for turn 2, up to Stoner and Miller Corner for turn 3 and 4. Then we rise up through Siberia, up through Hayshed, up towards Lukey Heights at the top of the hill. That's another very dangerous corner. You get that turn in wrong out at the top of the hill, it can make you run out wide and run into the wall. Very, very easy to do. We then come over the crest down towards the fast flowing roller coaster, hard braking zone of MG at turn 10. And then we finish it off with the very deceiving and difficult turn 11, where you got to be very careful with your throttle control coming through that corner, and then out through the other fastest corner on this track, turn 12, to start it all over again. The circuit is one of my favorites in the world. It's a favorite of many others as well. It is, well, it's world famous, as I mentioned. Of course, you know, we have the Grand Prix here every year for the MotoGP. We have the Supercars come here most years, and there's even a lot of club level racing as well. And that's what this production car race is here tonight. It's club level racing around this circuit. As I mentioned, the 3 different car types: the Clio Cup car, Toyota 86, GR86, and the Mustang FR500S. It's going to be a massive afternoon of racing. These guys are out there at the moment cutting their qualifying laps right now. It is lone qualifying for them, but for us, we get to kind of discuss what this race may be able to bring for us here in terms of spiciness or in terms of carnage. Now, this track doesn't really lend itself well, at least from what I've seen in my history of broadcasting, to safety cars. Now, it's pretty unlikely we're actually going to see a safety car out there tonight, but you never know. It could happen, but it's not likely to happen now that we don't actually have live race control. So we'll get no safety cars out there tonight, but we could see some real spicy action, of course, on offer for us out there on this magnificent circuit. Now, Ewan Baker is currently out there. He's currently set the fastest time in qualifying at the moment, a 1:45.23. He set the pace out of practice with a 1:45.1, so he's matching that pace that he had already here this afternoon. Doug Gowans has also raced up into P2 at the moment. He's got a 1:45.61, and then Thomas Hinz P3 as it currently stands, 1:45.72. The spread is pretty even for these lap times. So these drivers have only got 3 laps. They have only got 3 laps. They've got 10 minutes to do it out there. And they've only got 3 laps to set their lap times here tonight before this 55-minute extravaganza. Remembering that these cars, I mean, certain cars can make it certain distances in this race, but the real killer are the tyres. It's the tyres that are really going to affect people out there and how well they can contest with having those tyres burning up after 20 to 25 laps. Now, the Mustang, for example, can make it 50 laps on fuel. Its tyres cannot make it that fast. So the strategy play is going to come into effect here tonight. And it's really going to spice it up of what we could possibly see happen out there between these different types of cars. Now, I did mention there was a bit of BOP out there. The only car that has got some BOP is the Ford, of course. It's had a bit of ballast put into it, 250 kilograms in fact, and it's had 5% of its power taken away. That is to even it out, make it as even as we possibly can with the 8.6 and with the Clio Cup car. The choice of car across the majority of the field, the 8.6. It's probably the majority of the field's most driven car, being that it is a D-Class series now, and it does get a lot of numbers for entries. Of course, the Mustang is an older car, and the Clio, even though it's a bit newer, it doesn't really get as many numbers as what the 8.6 does on a week-in and week-out basis. Although, these cars normally do race together in the production car series and the Simrigs in the SimLabs production car series. So, you know, they're all going to be having a proper crack out there. Great to already have someone in the chat this afternoon as well. Welcoming in a long-time viewer of my broadcasts. Great to have you here, mate. Great to have you supporting this and supporting this series as well. Remember, guys, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, and hit the like button as well. Any engagement you do get will help grow the channel, help get me more opportunities to do broadcasting, and then we can get more and more race series on the channel, and we can get more and more race series highlighted as well. So it's going to be a big afternoon of racing, though, as I mentioned. 55 laps. Phillip Island, it's a tough circuit. It's one of my favourites, personally. One of my favourites to drive as well. It's one of the tracks that I can actually do quite well at, to be honest with you. But it's going to be very interesting to see how these drivers can contest with it. So a little bit of admin I've got to do. I've got to add one driver at least into my list who was not in my list before they joined the session. But that's okay. We can work with it. But it's, you know, let me know in the chat. What do you think of Phillip Island? What do you think of these car choices for this track as well? Having the Cup car, the Clio Cup car, the 8.6, and the Mustang out there. You know, what car would you have chosen if you were given those three options to race around this absolutely magnificent track? You know, what do you think you would have given to have a crack at that? We'll quickly bring up as well on screen as well our practice results on screen. We are getting a couple people over the radio in-game as well, but we have actually currently got them deafened, so that is fine. But yeah, we can see what the pace was kind of looking like throughout practice already. As I mentioned, Ewan Baker set the pace in practice. He's bringing a bit of international flavour for us here tonight, the old Scottish driver from Scott KSR Speed Nation. As I mentioned, he did a 145.185 out of practice. Tyler Sheaf was the man to get close enough to him from Velocity Sim Lab. He was only 0.3 of a second away from that time, so he got fairly close there. Just so we know what we're looking at as well on the timing tower and on these results screens, the red colouring represents the 8.6, the yellow colouring represents the Clio Cup car, and the blue represents the Ford. So that's how we're going to be able to differentiate between these cars, although they are being classified overall. These are our provisional qualifying results, so for tonight, as the cars will start to get gooded up, we can see here Ewan Baker takes pole position, 145.225. Here tonight, it was a fantastic lap from him. We'll see here, actually, if our grid actually works. Let's see if we can get our grid to work here. We can indeed. So, starting out of pole position tonight, as I mentioned, Ewan Baker takes out pole position just ahead of Doug Gowans from Velocity Sim Labs out of P2. Thomas Hinz will start at a P3 ahead of our first Ford on the grid, Ben Collard out of P4. Then it's Matt Pluck out of P5 alongside Tyler Sheaf out of P6. Daniel Stevens will then start at a P7 to bring our first Clio onto the grid, with Brett O'Keefe starting at a P8 here tonight. Gavin Barber will then start at a P9 with Adrian Duke making up the top 10. Hayden Kirk will then start at a P11 here tonight ahead of Sean Doyle out of P12, with Scott Barton starting at a P13 ahead of Dale Sharp out of P14. Kurt Chapman will then start at a P15 here tonight, just ahead of Dennis Hancock at a P16. Nathan Verney will then start at a P17 here tonight ahead of Giovanni Barbara out of P18, with Matt Keane starting at a P19 here tonight. Warren Henry will then make up our top 20 just ahead of Wayne Taylor at a P21, with Ira Felberg starting at a P22 here tonight. Adam Hughes will then start at a P23 just ahead of John Snell out of P24. with our final positions going to Warren Henry. Oh, what has that just done to me? What has that just done to me? You know what? It's just changed to class. That's why. That ruined me for a moment there. We'll head on down to our final positions. Cameron Brown, Jason Fewens, Peter Hunter, and Brandon Griffiths as well, making up the rest of our grid here tonight, of course. But the cars are out on the grid. We are getting ready to go racing here for this afternoon's event here. Leading the way, Ewan Baker, as I mentioned. Be hoping to get a good start here. He has to wait until the control line to go. Even if he gets the green light, he has to wait until then to get it done. He will wait to go green. Can Doug Gowans bring the assault to him here? Up into turn one, round the final corner we come. We wait for the green lights. We wait to go racing here out at Phillip Island. Who's going to get the jump? How are we going to go here? Baker, Gowans, front row of the grid. We've got the green. We see the cars in the background just start to maneuver in and out of place as we come down towards turn number one. See how they look coming through here. Looking pretty neat and tidy at the moment. Not much movement between these cars. It's good to see. As Dougie Gowans makes his way up into P1 already by turn number 2. As we come up towards Stoner Corner. Down they come. Baker trying to put massive pressure on Gowans. On the curb cam we go. As they make their way into Miller Corner. Baker trying to get it done around the outside of Gowans. Gowans defends hard. He's got his teammate Tyler Sheaf not too far behind him now, able to bring in the support if he can. We make our way up through Siberia and Hayshed. By these 8.6s. They are the cars of choice in the majority of the field as we come up over Lukey Heights. Down through MG. Looking pretty neat and tidy at the moment, the majority of the field. Let's come up through 11 and 12. That's our timing tower after lap 1. Felberg over the radio already. He's asking race control to have a look at something after the race. As mentioned, nice and neat and tidy here early on. It's a long race here tonight. 55 laps is the predicted distance. Oh, we can see a bit of argy-bargy though from Baker on Gowans. Sheafy's going to get in there and have a crack too. These guys are going to go 3 wide through Stoner. Not quite close enough to do it just yet. And this is an intensifying battle at the front of the field right now. We've already got a car in the pits. Wayne Taylor has already come in. Peter Hunter has also gone off the track. What's happened to him in the Mustang? Big slide through one and just backs it out onto the grass. And there's been a huge crash up the field. Henry's involved as well as Felberg. What's happened here? He's hopped the curb, spun it round, and there's been contact between what appears to be the teammates coming through that corner there. Back up the front though with Baker. There's a look off the back of the Kiwi Sim Racing machine. Look at the train of cars in behind. These guys are all battling hard at the moment. And when you go on the run down the main straight, Gowans looks to get the slipstream. Can this help him make a move into turn one? He looks to go for it down the inside. Massive moment early on. Remember, it's only lap 3. Gowans gets it done. Baker's not going to let him quite have it just yet, though. He may have to muscle him out a little bit here. Got the inside line now. Gowans just going to have to scoot back in behind him here. Fantastic racing so far from these Tin Top Titans. We can see in the background Hin's trying to get a move done here on Sheafy. Just scoots it up the inside at Stoner. Sheaf trying to come back in him here. Ooh, nearly contact there on the inside. Looking pretty neat and tidy at the moment. Looking out the back of Sheafy's car now as we come up through Siberia. Look at how close Hinz is getting onto the back of him here. You just see he's filling up the whole rear window of Sheafy's car. I don't think this battle is far from over yet. These guys may just go for the next 50 laps. All the way to the checkered flag flying. Oh, Sheafy with a little bit of a blink there. Hopefully that's nothing too serious for him. Hopefully he can stay in this. Just look at the pack of cars in behind them here. Just an absolute drenching of cars, and Hinz has just been chewed up as they've come through the first corner here. Stevens just ahead of him in that Clio. These guys trying to battle hard at the moment as we come through turn 2. On board with him in the Clio. He's trying to get this done on Hinz down the inside. Stevens just gets it done up through Miller. As we come up to Siberia now once again. Here comes Hinz though, trying to bring the fight to the Middle Finger Racing driver. Up through Hayshed now. Fantastic wheel-to-wheel action from these drivers. Remembering it is just a bit of a fun race. They're not racing for sheep stations or anything like that. It's just for a bit of bragging rights, a little bit of glory. See here in the background, Brent O'Keefe under pressure here from Hayden Kirk. As this Adrian Duke, the current highest positioned Mustang out on in the field right now, P10 at the moment. He's just doing the business. Remembering this car had 250 k's of ballast added to it and negative 5% power, so it's down on power. It's already a difficult car to drive as Matthew Pluck there goes fastest on that last lap, a 145.607. Sheafy in P3 had just gone fastest, and then, well, Pluck just kind of plucked it away from him there in the dying embers of that lap. You see Duke here, he's just trying to stay in contention with these guys. He's battling cars in behind, battling cars ahead. He is pushing hard to stay the highest position Mustang and to stay inside that top 10. Not quite close enough to go for a move here. Oh, but under brakes gains a lot on the Clio ahead. I was about to say, not quite close enough to get a move done into Miller. He's just want to try and set this up, working hard over the next couple of laps to shrink that gap as much as he can, and then just watch where that Clio makes mistakes, where that Clio struggles, so then he can take advantage in a couple of laps' time. Also needs to be careful though of the cars in behind him, that they don't do the same thing. Now that Middle Finger Racing 8-6 in behind, he'll be hoping to make a move, but I think it's gonna be a very interesting battle, a very enticing battle for sure. See who can come out on top here. So you go back up the front now. Baker, he's just trying to stretch the legs a little bit. It's about half a second gap back to Gowans in P2. Gowans' teammate Sheafy out of P3. He's a further 3.8 tenths back. You just see him here trying to break the toe. Needs to be careful of weaving too much. Doesn't, you're allowed so many moves. Look at them just snake behind him down the straight. Come through turn number 1, up through turn 2 now. And this track, I mean, it looks simple, but it really isn't. It's one of those circuits that it's kind of deceiving in a way of how difficult it can actually be and kind of how much it can play on your mind a little bit. There's been a knock there from Gowans into the back of Baker. That's now made Gowans go into the grass there, dropping a heap of spots. And he has had to pop out all the way back in P12. A little bit overzealous going for that move. Went up into the back of Ewan Baker there. Let's look at this again. Look at this mid-corner. It's just the slightest of knocks and it just unloads that 8.6. If you've driven the 8.6 before, it's a bit of a soft machine. It takes a very small knock for it just to kind of get unsettled and end up in the grass, and that's what's happened to Gowans. We know he's got the pace to be up the front. It's whether he's actually just going to be able to wrestle his way through the field now and get his way back up the front, but he's got a massive gap to get back now on the leader. 6.7 seconds up to Baker. And Sheafy's not quite close enough to put the pressure on him to really keep in line with these front runners. So this is now Baker's race to win. He could run away with this here if the cars behind are not careful. Just going to stay within his grasp. Sheafy under massive pressure here from Pluck. He'd love to make this a 1-2 for his team. Look at him right up behind the commentator racer Tyler Sheaf. As Barbara's over the radio for race control, so something's happened. Let's check it out here in the Clio. He's up on the outside of turn 2 and he just runs it wide. I'm not sure what race control are going to be able to do about that one. He's just kind of run it wide there off the exit of 2. Or mid-corner, really, actually, on the apex. So, that's a tough one. Didn't appear to be any contact. But regardless, we're back to this battle now. This is the battle for P2. The gap has now extended. It's now out to 1.1 seconds up to the leader. And as I mentioned, if these guys are not careful, they're going to have to be, willing to reel them in here. Down the Gardner Straight now to start lap number 8 of 55 here tonight. Fastest lap that last time by was Daniel Stevens. He set himself a 1:45.824. Doing a very good job to keep it clean. Oh, Sheafy still blinking in and out there. He needs to be careful. Does not want to miss out on this possible podium for himself. Still a long way to go though, remember, and these guys are still battling it out hard. Let's check out how the field are going at the moment. Peter Hunter at the back of the field. We saw him struggle earlier on in that Mustang through turn 1. He's still trickling around at the back. Wayne Taylor A bit further up, middle finger racing car. He's just trying to bridge that gap. He's got about 15 seconds to gain on the car ahead. Warren Henry, he's about the same. We saw him involved in that incident early on. And he's just dropped back down the field. Cameron Brown, he's just on the back here of Ira Felberg. And these guys are still in an intensifying battle. They got Adam Hughes just up the road from them here. They are just trying to chase him down and bring him back into this little battle. Brendan Griffiths in P22. He's kind of rolling around on his own at the moment. Same for Giovanni Barbera. Saw him make the mistake at turn 2. It made him kind of just float off the side of the track, and he's just dropped a heap of spots. John Snell, he's currently sitting in behind Ben Collard in the Mustang. This guy's trying to have a nice little battle. This is the battle for P19 at the moment. We've got Verney just ahead of them with Doyle involved in a bit of a battle with him. It's a nice little 5-car battle pack starting to form here with some of these guys. Scott Barton, VMME Sports, he's in here P16 at the moment. He does well in the SRW F3 league, but this is a whole nother kettle of fish for him here. See how he goes this afternoon. Matt Keane, P15 at the moment in that Mustang. He's in an intensifying battle with Jason Fewens just ahead of him in that Duff Beer Clio. Kurt Chapman just up the road from them in the 8.6. He's got Gavin Barber just up the road. He's on the back of this intensifying battle here. With Doug Gowan, sorry. He's already made up a position back after losing out early on from a bit of contact at turn 4. Adrian Drake under massive pressure here though from Gowans. He'll be hoping to hold him off as best he can in this Mustang. How do they go up through Lukey Heights, down towards MG? Nice and tidy so far. Tell you what, we're going to sit with this one for a lap. We'll be back at the conclusion of the next lap. Well, we saw there that the Mustang just kind of dropped some spots out towards turn 4. It's now promoted Dougie Gowans back into the top 10, which is where he wanted to be. He's now brought Gavin Barber into this little battle here. Jason Fewens went off track there in the little break as well. Let's just see what's happened to him. Oh, we can see here, there's a big argy-bargy between them out at turn 4, and that's just sent him wide and dropping a heap of spots. Have to wait and see what race control's call is going to be after the race on that one. But look at this look at this gap already. P1, 2.6 seconds is the gap between Baker and Pluck. Baker, he can just cruise on home now. I mean, he's got his teammate 2.8 seconds in behind him. He's in a bit of a battle here with Hinz. And, you know, Hinz just, he doesn't want to get enticed into a battle here. Because if he gets into a battle, that's when Baker's going to be able to pull away. And, well, their strategy, it would seem, is going to work off well for them. So, Hinz needs to dispose of Pluck as quickly as possible. Get P2 and then just chase down the leader of this race as best he possibly can. Ball with him here. Look at the run. There's Pluck, P2. There's Hinz. These guys are side by side at the moment. Down towards turn number 1. We can see Stevens looking in behind them there in the Clio. Hinz gets it done down the inside. How's he going to go here through turn number 2? Looking pretty neat and tidy at the moment is the majority of them. Scott Barton's dropped a couple of spots there off a move in behind. I don't think there was anything malicious in it. As we come up through Stoner, up towards Miller Corner. Does Pluck try and get it back? He waits. He's going to be patient here. He'll work hard just to kind of sit in behind Hinz, keep the pressure on him. Hopefully force the mistake himself and not have to battle him. The gap has risen now up to 3.2 seconds nearly, up to P1 in Baker. He has got the pace to continue to stretch that gap out as Collard has gone off track and behind. Barton and Keane. Let's try and get all the replays on it. It's up here at Miller. Oh, he's just clipped the curb and it's forced him out wide. Oh, there's been massive contact with Barton as well, and into the wall they go. Massive incident between those 3 cars. And the front of that Mustang was looking pretty poorly, if I do say so myself. Not what you want to see here, especially out at turn 4. That has pretty much now taken out any hopes for a Mustang top 10. Realistically, Adrian Duke's the only one who's got a hope in hell right now. He's P12 right now. He's a bit far behind Barber and Hancock. Gowan's using his pace at the moment to make his way up back through the field. P9 is where he currently stands, and we know he has the pace. He has the pace to be up on the podium. And he is just trying to chase down as best he can those positions that he once lost. He's got the Clio of Sharp in front of him. Then he's got his teammate Tyler Sheaf in P7. You'd be hoping he to try and get this done on the Clio ahead of him here. On board with him now. Check out his lap times as well. His best a 145.595. Last lap was a 47.4. So times have dropped off a bit. But he'll be hoping to get back up there and have a good old crack at a podium here this afternoon. So look at the run, he gets under, brakes down to MG. That was a massive gain. That was nearly something painful. Almost had to close my eyes on that one. Nearly collecting the back end of that Clio. Well, he's trying to get it done around the outside. Not quite there, but this is what can make it difficult, that rear-wheel drive of the 8.6, the front-wheel drive of the Clio. Clio has the advantage in the straights, but the 8.6 has the advantage around the corners, so we'll see him really gain after turn 3. And then up through towards MG. That's where you'll gain the most amount of time. on the Clio ahead of him. Yeah, I ran a couple of test AI races yesterday just to see how these cars would handle around this track. I saw some absolutely phenomenal moves, including an 8.6 going around the outside of turn 2 of one of the Mustangs. It was pretty phenomenal to see, if I do say so myself, and it was quite a fair bit of action on hand throughout the little 15-lap races that I did. But we are now at lap 14 of 55. Gowan's covering the inside here on Hancock in behind him. His teammate Tyler Sheep just up the road here. He's on the back of this little train of Kirk and O'Keefe. These guys will be trying to continue on in a bit of a battle. Just try and gain any advantage they may be able to on any of the cars around them, especially heading up towards the pit stop period of this race. So go on board with Sheafy here. Come on through MG, up through 11 and 12. Looking pretty good at the moment. Collard into the pits. Of course, we saw the incident between him and others a little bit ago, a couple of laps ago. He's been off track again, but now he's into the pit lane. He'll be hoping just to get any advantage he possibly can. Oh, a bit of grass catching there from O'Keefe. He's got the whippersnipper out. He's trying to trim some weeds. How do we go on the double apex? Sheafy gaining a heap of time. He's really improved, I must say. Over his racing journey over the last year, Tyler Sheafy has really improved in his racecraft and in his pace as well. It's fantastic to see. We come into Miller. Big gain under brakes for him here. He's just trying to get close enough to put the assault on. Come up through Siberia now. Sheafy just trying to keep the pressure on them. Trying to hopefully force the mistake. We come up through Lukey Heights. Not looking too bad so far. And this Clio is really starting to become a bit of a wall for these 8.6s now. Really just starting to hinder them a little bit. Look at how Sheafy is driving this car. Nice smooth wheel movements here through the final couple of corners. How he is shifting gears without moving that gear shifter, I do not know. Must have the automatic transition pack on the car. And then that must just be there for show, but he's working hard here and he's trying to get back up into respectable position on the podium. He did well to qualify where he was. He had the pace in practice. He knows he can be quick. So whether he can actually position the car in that position to get it done, that is the question. Just see them here up towards the heavy braking zone. He positions the car inside of the track there. That was just to mitigate any issues he may have under brakes and running up the rear end of the car ahead. Doyle into the pits now. So we make our way up through Siberia. Sheafy wants it up the inside. Can he get it done here up through Lukey Heights? There was a gap left open. He's now got the outside line through MG. It's going to be hard for him to get this done. Needs to keep the car positioned there for turn 11 and 12. Still got that inside line. He's got the move done. That was some phenomenal racing there from Tyler Sheafy. to get that done through that little section of corners. Kirk will have to come back in here up into turn 1. Oh, you're going to see him all weaving out of the way of that lapped car in the Mustang. That's really hindered Kirk's approach now to try and get that move done. See him just out the back of Sheafy's car. This battle is intensifying. This is all the way up for P4. That Clio of Daniel Stevens, he currently is situated in that P4 position. Looking off the back of his car now, we can see them just dancing in the background. Sheafy wants it up the inside, not quite close enough on O'Keefe. O'Keefe defends well. He continues on in P number 5. Oh, leaves a massive gap though down the inside. He's almost dancing with danger there, almost trying to drag Sheafy in for a mistake. So we come up through Hayshed once again. Oh, we can see here Sheafy just parking the car on the inside. He's trying to get this thing done down towards MG. He did it last lap. He was able to hook it on the outside. Has to go up the inside. These guys are super, super tight right now. Absolutely nothing in it in the battle for P4. As Sheafy's forced to go out wide, Kirk makes his way back up into P6, and this battle is far from over. Through one we go, and that straight line advantage of the Clio really coming in clutch there. He's just able to break away just a little bit, gives him a boost, and just helps him hold this position. We know the 8.6 has got the advantage around the corners and the tight, twisty sections of circuit, pretty much from turn 4 onwards down to turn 12. As soon as you hit that straight and that first little sector, the Clio just comes into its own. That's where it kind of levels itself out, and it's both of them having their advantages. It's almost a 50-50 split of certain sections of track. If he can hold them out for the technical sections, he can then stay ahead of them in the fast-paced sections. That's where it really comes down to that nitty-gritty of being able to hold people off, being able to defend, and having your racecraft at a high enough level that you can actually continue on in front of someone, or continue on in a battle with somebody. And once that Clio is behind them, will he be able to battle them as hard? Maybe not, because he might not be able to hang with them in those more technical sections. Yes, he has a straight line advantage, but that goes away once you don't have the slipstream if you're in behind a car. So, you know, they then have the advantage because they can then defend in those faster sections, and then they can just pull away in the more technical sections. But it appears we're going to continue to see this battle go on. And we may get an answer very soon on which of these two cars actually has the advantage out there. We know the 8.6 was the car of choice. The majority of the field is in it. Start lap number 19 here of 55. We're etching closer and closer to the halfway point. Possibly even closer and closer to the pit stop strategy coming into play as well. So Stevens just trying to defend the inside line, as I mentioned. I have to wonder how many of those 8.6 drivers know they have the advantage in this next section of track. This is where they need to maximize their attack. This is where they need to maximize going for these moves. It's looking like Kirk is going to try and maximize it here up through Hayshed, but he's under massive pressure from Tyler Sheafy in behind. How do we go up towards Lukey Heights? Sheafy trying to get this thing done round the outside. We'll have the inside line at the next corner at MG. Stevens is just surviving here. He is just holding on at the moment. But look at this. Look at Kirk in behind him here. Nearly had it around the outside. Couldn't quite get it done. And this is where the Clio, as I mentioned, is now about to have the advantage. Look at this gap just spread as he pumps it down the straight. Full throttle here down through turn one. Slight lift, quite possibly. Very slight lift. Oh, Sheafy getting all sorts of uncovered in the background. He's almost drifting it through one. You can just see how much that 8.6 gains in the corners. Will he be trying to line this move up in the next section of circuit here? We're going to stay with this. This is an intensifying battle. The pressure is raising here between these drivers. Come up through Siberia now. I don't think the 8.6 is quite close enough here to really put the pressure on. He may want to try and prove me wrong as we come up through Luton Heights. As I mentioned, he needs to just maximize his exit out of Siberia. If he can maximize the exit and the entry through Siberia, that's what's going to maximize his run up to Luton Heights. And that's what's going to give him the advantage in these little sections here and make that move easier on the Clio. Clio's not willing to give this up. He's not willing to back down. He's putting the fight in this whole time on Kirk in behind. And I mean, you'll just be able to see him pull away here down the straight inside the 8.6. Buggy Gowan's over the radio there. As we come through one, his advantages are completely going to go away. Let's check out what these guys are talking about here. Oh, that there was a bit questionable, I must say. See if we can get a better look at it. If we can. This was them. Oh, a bit of a knock. That's questionable. A very interesting little kerfuffle there between those two guys. Leave it up to race control's hands to make the decision. Back in this battle. This is also P4 of this race. Look at a P5 at the moment. Hayden Kirk. Having a big battle here with Tyler Sheafin behind him. Let's check out how the battle for P2 is starting to form. The gap now out to about 4 seconds, so not quite as far as I would have thought it might be by this point, but I think the lap traffic is definitely having a point to play here in containing that gap between Baker and Hinds and Pluck. Stevens into the pits now in the Rio. So this may throw an ultra spanner in the works. Let's watch him here as he comes down the lane. Into the pits. Let's see how long the stop is. Remembering a couple of people have already been in the pits, including Scott Barton, Dennis Hancock, Fewens, Barbera, Doyle, Taylor, Keane, Hunter, Snell, Henry, Collard, Griffiths. Those guys have all been down the lane. Not necessarily for scheduled stops, but they have been down the lane. The other two Renaults out there who've been through the lane for what appears to be a scheduled stop, Fewens and Barbera, their stops were about a 21.9 for Fewens, 25 seconds for Barbera. Both of them had a very similar pit lane travel time of about 55, 56 seconds. Stevens has just had a stop which was 33.58 seconds. Pit lane travel time, 1 minute and 1 second. So, be very interesting to see what that compares to for the 8.6s. He should be able to get home now from this point on the one stop. So, it's going to be very interesting to see where he lines up. He's come out of the pits P13. Now what's going to be important is these 8.6s taking advantage of him coming in early and then being able to push a little bit more and to spread the gap. They're not going to be able to stay out there forever, of course. They're going to have to come in at some point. Just depends when they decide to get the most advantage out of their current position on track. Although they are having to deal with a heap of traffic at the moment as they come on through past one of the other 8.6s and one of the Mustangs as well. Who was that? I believe that might be Peter Hunter, Matt Keane, just up the road from these guys. So they are still battling it out nice and tight here. This is for P4 at the moment. Could be provisional P5. Really just depends what their pit stop is like compared to Stevens, who was P4 before coming into the pits. Kirk, Sheafy in behind him. The battle still rages on. Got Gowans in the background. He's managed to wrestle his way up a few positions. Oh, that looked like Sheafy going for it down the inside. I do apologise. And that's a big spin for Hayden Kirk. Massive implications in this race. That could be race ending for Hayden Kirk and quite possibly podium done and dusted for him. Let's see what's happened. Why that happened as well. So Sheafy went for it up the inside. Oh, Kirk's just run way too wide. Pushed to try and close the inside gap between him and the inside of the track, and he's just looped it. Very unfortunate for him. Incredibly unfortunate for him, and he's now dropped all the way down to P9. Still ahead of Stevens, but he's there's no way knowing how he would stay ahead of Stevens after his pit stop happens. Those tyres will be absolutely cooking right now. I don't think he'll be out there for much longer. What this has done is that this has now promoted Tyler Sheaf up into P4, who was getting the move done anyway, but now he actually hasn't been battled for it. He's got his teammate, as I mentioned, Dougie Gowans in behind. This is now who we focus on when it comes to where will Stevens end up when these guys pit. Remembering, Phillip Island is a strategy-heavy track. It's a track that you gain a lot when your strategy is to perfection. This is not a track where you see a lot of safety cars or you see a lot of manoeuvring on track for positions. You can see it happen. We have seen it happen today, no doubt about that. But it's a track where your positions are gained when your strategy is to perfection. That is where the most can be gained. That is where you can take advantage and use your knowledge of this track or use your knowledge of your track car combination and other track car combinations when it's a multi-car type of race. That's where your advantage is in those pit strategies, is knowing when to come in, when to take tyres, how much fuel to put in the car, how much fuel to start in the car as well to get the most out of these pit stops. You start with more fuel, so then your pit stop's actually shorter, and you can go slightly longer if you need to, but you then hinder it on track pace. Or do you take, half the tank of fuel that you're allowed and do two sessions or two stints, you should say, of the exact same amount of fuel in the car with the exact same amount of laps in the car, exact same amount of laps on the tyres as well. That's what you got to kind of weigh up in coming up with these strategy plays, especially in these types of cars. These production cars are heavy on strategy. So you put that with a heavy strategy-based track, you start to kind of weasel your way down to, well, what is the best course of action for the strategy play? Gowan's going to go up the inside, possibly a Sheafy here. I have to wonder if they're going to work together, if they're just going to have a little inter-team battle. They need to be remembering about where Stevens has ended up and where they are in comparison to him. Remembering, they can't be out there for too long. Although the longer they are out there, the shorter their pit stop is going to be later in the race. So, this is all about, as I mentioned, learning what is best for your strategy. What is best
for your race and what is best for your driving style as well. Do you drive better in a car with more fuel in it for longer? Or do you drive better with a car has a bit less fuel in it? And that's how your setup works. It's a real juggling act. We see it a lot in other race series that I call, especially for the vets and especially for SRW as well for the IMSA series. The vets mainly though because they've got 2 compulsory pit stops every single week. So those drivers are actually having to juggle when to commit to their 2 compulsories, but also how much fuel to have in their car to get home. And, you know, depending on how long the race is, that's how much fuel you need to get home. And juggling all of that can be a real head shrinker. But getting it right is when you can really just take advantage. And that's when it can feel super gratifying and super special as well, when you can get it right and when you can push on to, you know, to have the best possible strategy you can. So just something to think about. But we are getting into our pit stop period now. I would expect the majority of these cars to come in thinking that these tyres are going to start to go off a little bit now. We'll head back up to our battle for P2 with Hins and Pluck. These guys are still battling it out hard. They're about 4.5 seconds down the road from the leader, Ewan Baker. So this is now just kind of a battle for P2 at the moment. Could change up a little bit, of course, depending on when Ewan comes into the pits. If he comes out in traffic, you know, all these other different factors that can come into play. But, you know, it's not over until the checkered flag flies, of course. And Ewan may be in the strongest position at the moment. Doesn't mean that he is exempt from making mistakes or he is exempt from getting into trouble and then, you know, having to come down the lane for an incident or going off track too many times, you know, getting too many incident points and then actually having a drive through. So anything can happen. We're at the halfway point of the race now, but you know, we can still see, you know, I've seen races around Phillip Island where it's been 2 races in one. It's been a race of halves. One half of the race went one way, another half of the race went another way. It's even been cut down into thirds or quarters before. It really just depends how things can play out and how people's strategies play out as well. So very, very interesting to see how this all works going forward as we come into the second half of this race. I always talk about this point in the race is kind of like that awkward period for the drivers. You know, you're at halfway point. You're not quite at your final pit stop just yet, and you're not quite at the sprint home. You're kind of in this little middle ground where you're just cutting laps to survive and to get to the next section of the storyline in this race, you know, to get to the next chapter of this race. And you know, these guys will be working hard to just keep the minds clear, keep the cars on track, and to keep their tyres and their cars in the best possible shape they can be to make that final run home after that final pit stop. So a multitude of things could be happening throughout the rest of this storyline of this race, and we've still got so long to go. You know, we're only halfway through. We're only up to chapter, or you could argue chapter 3 of 6 here tonight, but still some intensifying battles happening here. Pluck gets it done round Hins before Siberia. Hopefully that is not a cold end to his race. Hopefully Hins can stick with this, keep the pressure on Pluck and really bring the fight to him here towards the end of this race. Baker's broken away, as I mentioned. He's about 5 seconds up the road. But these guys are still in an intensifying battle for P2 of this race. As we come through MG. And they'll be looking, you know, just to kind of hang out together for a little bit. Just work together a little bit, you know. They're not battling too hard at the moment. That'll likely change when we got about 10-15 laps to go. That's when they'll really start to battle it out hard, as Baker sets the fastest lap of the race last time by a 1:45.533. And look at this, Hins right on the back end of Pluck. And again, this is what I'm mentioning here. He's working smarter, not harder. He's not pushing the fight. He's not battling Pluck. He's not going for moves when you may go for moves later in the race. He's being patient and he's being smart. A race can be lost a lot easier by crashing than it can by staying clean. So He's just trying to mitigate those mistakes and mitigate those decisions to do the best he possibly can here this afternoon. So he knows there's still halfway to go, and he knows that he's still going to be in a fight for a long one, and he wants to battle it out for a long time here with Pluck. So they'll continue fighting on here as we come up through Siberia once again. Haven't really got many other battles on track at the moment. We got Dennis Hancock here battling it out with Scott Barton. Cameron Brown just in behind them here. Matt Keane has had an incident in behind. He's gone off. Where's this at? This looks to be out at MG, and he's towed back to pits. So what's how? It wasn't even an MG. It was turn 4 at Miller Corner. So what's happened to him here? He's come down hard on the brakes. Just a massive lock and just unable to get that car pulled up, and he has had to go down the escape road here on the short circuit. Just into the invisible wall that's there. And towed back to pits. That could be day done for him, unfortunately for him. This magnificent circuit here. Just a phenomenal sight. As I mentioned, we are down here at Phillip Island here this afternoon for this race. It's one to behold. It's a sight to behold, of course, here this afternoon. In fact, we'll do this one, I reckon. So we got that there. As I mentioned, located out at Cows, anti-clockwise, 12 turns, 4.4 Ks. We're about halfway home. Not long to go here this afternoon. We'll be back with more of the action here from Phillip Island very shortly. Back here with Phillip Island action for the OZICAR Tin Top Cup. We're at lap 30 of 55. So you can see Matthew Pluck, Thomas Hinds, these guys battling hard. We have had an incident with Wayne Taylor. What's he done here? Oh, just a big old slide through too, and I think it may have made him just spin around. It has. Unfortunate for him. Back on this battle now. Between these two drivers. This is the battle for P2. A couple of people have come in for their scheduled stops. Ira Felberg into the pits. Sharp made his stop, lap 26. Verney was in lap 28, as well as Cameron Brown. He came in lap 28 as well. So past the halfway point now as we come down the main straight. Out here at Phillip Island, as just watch him go over the horizon line.
Baker setting the fastest lap of the race once again, 1:45.48 last time by. He is absolutely cooking it up front. Gap is now out to 7.1 seconds. He hasn't had a hell of a lot of TV time, and I think that just comes down to the fact that he hasn't been in a heap of battles, so he's kind of just been, you know, doing it on his own, dominating from the front, and he's looking super, super strong at the moment. There's a heap of cars into the pits now. Gavin Barber as well as Wayne Taylor, so I expect to see the majority of these 8.6s to come into the pits. Now, it's whether the Mustang will wait until lap 50 to come in, or if he'll come in earlier. That is the question here. What he will do. I don't think it'll give him much of an advantage, but it's just whatever the strategy play is. Baker, though, been on an absolute tear out there this afternoon. He is just absolutely ripping and dipping in that Toyota 8.6. Just got some absolute mega pace going on right now. Remember, guys, hop into the chat if you can. Get the conversation started. Let me know what car you would have chosen if you would have raced in this race here this afternoon. The 8.6, the Mustang, or the Clio. Get the conversation started. Get it going. And who do you think has been the driver of the day so far? I mean, Baker has been super, super strong. Gowans was strong to fight back to P4 at the moment. Sheafy's done well to stay up there. Hins and Pluck, those guys have been on par. Let us know who you think has been driver of the day here for the OZICAR Tin Top Cup. Remember, guys, if you want to catch more of my broadcasts, be sure to head over to the V8 Vets YouTube channel as well. We'll be having season 18 of the V8 Vets starting this Sunday night. So, or not this Sunday night, sorry. So not tomorrow, but next week on Sunday. Sunday the 17th of December. Sunday the 17th of December. Round number 1 for season 18. The Split 2 broadcast returns to the Vets YouTube channel. Be sure to go and check that out if you're ready for season 18 of Vets. Also for SRW TV, that'll be returning in January for the IMSA series on Friday nights. That'll be great to see on our screens once again. But our focus this afternoon is on these sports cars and this incredible racing we've been seeing. So wheel-to-wheel action between these guys. Remember, these guys are not fighting for a championship or anything. It's just for glory, just for bragging rights. Just to say that they won the 5th annual Tin Top Cup out there here tonight. I reckon the series needs to try and fight to get a bit of sponsorship from Tip Top. Called the Tip Top Cup. What do you reckon? Let us know. Gowan's into the pit lane, so he's the first of the main front runners into the pits. Where will he end up comparatively to Daniel Stevens? Stevens is now coming through Siberia and now up through Hayshed and then Lukey Heights. Gowans is just coming to his pit box. That's where he is. And then there's Stevens. So these two guys, remember we mentioned Stevens came in nice and early, lap 21. He's going for the slightly longer stint here on the second go round. Has the strategy played off? Coming past the pit entry now. Gowans is still up on the jacks. I reckon Stevens will have him here. Gowans is still in there. This is a long stop. Oh, he's coming out now. He's just dropped. But I think the pace of the Clio is going to have the advantage down the straight. This is going to be super, super tight on exit. There's Gowans, and Stevens has pipped him here in the pit stop. He's pipped him because his pit stop was 6 seconds faster than Gowans was. Let's look at this. There's the pit time for them. So it was around about 5 seconds between them. Here's the lane travel. So again, about 7 seconds between them. So that longer stop has almost hindered Gowans there on that one. Barber in the background here. This is a nice little battle happening with Chapman. How are we going to go here? He's got a bit of backup in behind him with his teammate Dennis Hancock. These guys are still fighting hard. They're willing to go all the way here to the end of this race to really just get that. They're not racing for a podium. They're racing for an opportunity at the top 10. If someone ahead of them makes a mistake or someone ahead of them gets a penalty, suddenly they're into the top 10, you know. And as I mentioned, it's all about bragging rights across the whole field. Whether you're beating your teammates or you're beating your competitors, that's where the bragging rights come in. And that's what, one of these races is so important for. Keeping the morale up, keeping the competitiveness up, but also just keeping the friendship up and the community as well. And it's great to see. So Barber doing a phenomenal job so far. Our biggest mover and shakers so far, Fuen's currently up 10 positions in this race. He's up to P16. Biggest shaker so far, Ben Collard, he is down 22 positions in this race. So remember that early incident, much earlier in the race. And he was really affected by it. Really made him drop a heap of spots early on. In fact, he actually started in pit lane. So I think that's what also actually hindered him as well, was starting from the pit lane. Check out some of the big crashes that have happened throughout this race so far, though. This was one that was very early on, lap number 2. Henry, Felberg, Brown, all these guys were involved. It was down at turn number 4. Oh, we can just see there that curb hop that caused it, and then nowhere to go after that one. See here, this was Dougie Gowans going off track. That was a big race implicating moment. I mean, he was putting the pressure on Baker ahead of him. And that really just hurt him early on. Ben Collard, we just mentioned him. He had a moment as well earlier in the race. We saw it here. Just that he had nowhere to go, run out wide, and then all hell just broke loose ahead of them. Poor old Scotty Barton, nowhere to go. One of those things to happen out here. I mean, racing is racing and those sorts of things happen. But it's a real shame sometimes to see it go down. See here, just a bit further up the road from these. Oh, this is where Chapman is. Chapman and Barber, these guys still fighting it out. This is the battle for P11, as I mentioned. These guys have been in the pits. In fact, everyone has made a pit stop, at least one pit stop in this race, other than the top 7 cars. That being Adrian Duke, who's got one of the 8-6s behind him. This is out of sync though. Brown, he's in P23, so he's actually lap traffic. I mentioned Duke. As I mentioned this, so Tyler Sheaf has just come into the pits. So Sheafy comes in. Where's he going to end up compared to Daniel Stevens? Stevens at the moment coming up through Lukey Heights, so he may actually be pretty close for this. He's going to come through MG. Sheafy's in the box. How long's the stop going to be? What do we reckon? Sheafy's still there. I think Stevens might have him here. Comes around turn 12. Sheafy just dropped. I don't think it's going to be enough. I think he's going to come out right behind him here. I think Stevens is going to survive this. Oh, it's uber close.
Made it look closer on the other camera angle, but it's just the pace of the Clio that really gave him the advantage there. He now moves on and is up into P8. You have to argue that, although we have got Sharp ahead of him as well. Sharp's done very, very well to stick up with this. Although he had a very short stop. He had a 48.77 lane travel, 22nd pit stop. Interested to see what that strategy play is. And to see how it plays out as well. Just see Sheafy in the background here. With his teammate Dougie Gowans. Inns and Pluck, these guys have not been able to be separated all day. This is probably one of the biggest gaps they've actually had, about 7/10, nearly 8/10 of a second. As I mentioned, Baker's just been ultra dominant. Well, that gap has actually shrunk. It's now down below 7 seconds. I think the traffic may have had something to do with that. But it'll be interesting to see what the play's going to be now as we come up towards lap 40 and 15 laps to go. It's lap 37 at the moment. So we're not too far away from 15 to go here. And we're getting into that nitty and gritty stage. These guys are going to come into the pits, do their pit stop, and they're going to be battling hard. It's going to be almost like a little 15-lap sprint as Collard has now come into the pits for his 5th pit stop of the race. He's actually been in there for quite a fair while. This may be that race done for Collard there, unfortunately for him. But he's been in there for a fair while. Remembering these guys do get one fast repair, so if they've had an incident, they do get the fast repair on their cars. Top 25 still out there though. Current order of things as we stand: Taylor P25 to Henry to Brown to Felberg, Snell, Hughes, Hunter. Hughes making up the top 20. Hunter P19. Then we got Verney, Doyle, Fewens. Then Barbera making up the top 15. Barton in P14. Hancock, Barber, Chapman, Sheaf, Gowan, Stevens, Sharp, Duke, Kirk, O'Keefe, Pluck, Hins, Baker. That is the top. Well, that's the top 25 of order at the moment. These guys are still battling it out hard, though, in behind. These guys are too wide. They're also dragging in the cars in behind them, which include the likes of Hancock and Barton. And, these guys are just fighting it out hard at the moment. They've got a bit of lap traffic in behind them as well. But these guys are not willing to give this up. It's a fantastic battle between these Toyota GR86s here tonight. A lot of these guys have a lot of practice in this. Ooh, the cars behind them, they're just dropping back a little bit. Who was that? Maybe Wayne Taylor just getting out of the way. I think it was. It is. So this little battle here is including Scott Barton, Dennis Hancock, Gavin Barber, Kurt Chapman. This is for P11 of this race. They are not willing to give anything up as we stand. Come down the main straight now. We have started lap 38. Just clicked over the hour and 7-minute mark of this race. Still a fair while to go here. Look at this battle. It's still intensifying between them. Look at the misclick there, but we're now back onto the gearbox cam of Kurt Chapman, looking back on Barber and Hancock and Barton. O'Keefe into the pits now as well. So he comes in out of P4. As we see him behind, Hancock gets it done down the inside of Barber there. Battle is just getting tastier and tastier. They're adding more and more seasoning as we go along. And these guys are not willing to give it up, and it's great to see. You know, these cars, as I mentioned, they're a little bit soft to drive sometimes. They can, they can react
so poorly depending on where you're driving and how you get hit. We saw it firsthand with Doug Gowans, a little knock in the rear end of Baker, and that caused him to spin. But they are a phenomenal little car. A great car to practice in. It's the reason why they're a D-class option. It's great to get your touring car knowledge up and your saloon or coupe racing knowledge up. It's a great pathway into both GTs and touring cars like the Supercars as well. And that's one thing I've spoken out many a times on and off broadcasts, is those grassroots systems in racing, and this is one of the true blue grassroots systems. And they are just willing to fight hard for this. Bit of in-race comms happening here between some of the drivers. Sort of a bit of a move between them. I believe it might be Brett O'Keefe trying to get past this lap traffic here of Cameron Brown. So just trying to line it up. O'Keefe willing to be a bit patient here. Brown said he'd let him go when he can. He's just trying to chase down that Mustang of Duke. So back on this, getting done. Brown said he was going to go right, so he should let him go here down the straightaway. He's now going to unleash O'Keefe onto the back of Duke and possibly a bit of a battle here for the top 5. O'Keefe has been in the lane, so he is in a provisional position here to do quite well. Could be provisional P4. Maybe even higher up. That depends how fast or slow those pit stops are going to be ahead of him. Remember, the Duke does need to come in, so this is not even realistically a battle for position. If we look here on the track map, where's Duke going to come out of the pits? So that should tell me to pit out position. Unfortunately, but that's where everyone's kind of located at the moment. Questions from some of the drivers if there's going to be a compulsory tyre change or not. I would think that you'd have to take tyres as the leader has come in. So Baker into the pits. That now unleashes Hinz up into P1. I don't know how Hinz could actually make the end of this race without taking tyres. This place is a bit of a tyre killer. Baker's going to come out of the pits. Where's he in comparison to Kirk? There's Kirk coming now. Here's Baker. Kirk's going to have a bit of a run though, although Kirk does need a pit. Just not quite close enough to get past his teammate. Doesn't really matter though. Kirk needs to pit. So these guys are still going to have to, come in. It was really covering from O'Keefe. If he was going to be able to put in a challenge, he wasn't quite close enough. And I doubt we're even going to see a battle between these two cars, being that they are teammates. So we'll have to wait and see what happens here. Here's the battle for the top 2. Hinz and Pluck, these guys going hard. This is pretty much provisional P2 right now. Scotty Barton's complaining about something. What's happened to him here? Let's check it out. Down the inside at MG. Ooh, that was questionable. Let's quickly go on ball with him. Have another look at that. He's come down the inside. It almost looked like he was turned in on. That's an interesting one. We'll leave it up for race control though. This battle's still going on. Hinz and Pluck. Who's going to get the advantage going into their pit stops? Remembering that Baker P3 is provisional P1 at the moment. I doubt these guys are going to be able to travel that lane in about 30 seconds. That's what the gap is now between them and P3. Fewens has had an off track here. What's happened to the Duff Beer machine? Big lockup. Oh, and just struggling into the pit lane. Makes it in, but that was a bit of a wild ride for him there. Back to this battle, though, between these two drivers. And as I mentioned, these guys have been together for the majority of this race. Battling hard, swapping and changing positions as Peter Hunter has gone off track. See what's happened to him here once again in that blue Mustang. And it's almost a recreation of the very early on incident that that car had. And just struggling in that thing. And it is a real struggle bug, that Mustang. So really is something to try and keep a hold of. We've currently got 25 cars out on track. We had 28 at the start of proceedings. We've lost a couple in the proceedings. Brandon Griffiths, Matt Keane, Ben Collard. Those three drivers are out. Last car on track for position is Wayne Taylor, P25. So these guys are lining up for their pit entry at the moment. Apparently Hinz hasn't actually done one, or he hasn't practiced one just yet, so... But we'll have to see how they traverse that when they come in. So they're obviously lining up a pit lane entry and a pit stop with under 15 laps to go. So the sprint is now beginning for these drivers, and we're going to start to really get a feel of where people sit in terms of positioning once these final pit stops have been commenced. Only 4 drivers need to come in for a scheduled pit stop, those being Thomas Hinz, Matthew Pluck, Hayden Kirk and Adrian Duke. Peter Hunter came in on lap 2, so I would say he does need to pit again. I doubt he's going to be able to make it home, but we will have to wait and see. As Duke comes in, so we mentioned his name, we mentioned pit stops, the Mustang comes in. We know this thing could make it 50 laps on fuel. It also has one of the longest pit stops out of the whole field, or it is the longest pit stop, so he may drop a heap of spots here once he comes into the lane. He's already dropping down to P9, P10. Could be going even further. Here's Hancock. He's coming around the final couple of corners now. So we know this car has a long pit stop. Hancock's going to come around the final corner to go into the main straight. And that's going to be all she wrote for that Mustang in the top 10. Barber also gets past him as well. What about Barton? He gets past him too as Duke is now just coming out. There goes the top 2, Hinz and Pluck. They start lap 44. These guys are provisional P2 and 3 on the track. Baker, remember, is provisional P1. He has been into the lane. He's P3 at the moment. These guys are 2 of 3 drivers who need to come in, including Kirk. He's in P4. But this battle is far from over. I feel like that these guys are just going to be working together here. They're cruising to get to that pit stop, and then it's going to be tooth and nail. Everything on offer for a battle to the finish. Car 52 and 51, they've been inseparable all day. And this battle for P2 continues on. Provisional P2, that is. P1 on circuit at the moment, but it's provisional P2. And it is far from over for these guys. When do they jump in? When do they come into the lane to commit to that final pit stop? Do they come in together or do they come in separately? On board with Hinz now. Let's check out his lap times here. His best time was a 1:45.521. His last lap time was a 45.795. So he's at his pace right now. The car must be feeling good. He continues on, so he doesn't come in quite yet. I believe Pluck may stick with him. As we come down the Gardner Straight. Let's watch this wheel work through turn 1. Nice and easy on through he goes. Looking very good as the lap traffic of Scott Barton lets them through. These guys are so quick at the moment. They are a lap ahead of nearly the majority of the whole field. They've gotten past P12. Barton sits P12 at the moment. These guys have now gotten past him and lapped him. So they are pushing on home to get this thing done, although they need a lot more gap back to Barker if they want to try and sit ahead of him here. The lane travel is long enough for them to get passed by him alone, so they really need to extend this gap out. His lane travel was 45 seconds. He had a 16-second stop. So remembering the lane travel is about 30 seconds on its own. He should breeze past them and go back to where he was at P1, depending if he doesn't actually make a mistake. That is what is crucial in this scenario. He has got his teammate, Hayden Kirk, about 4 seconds behind him on track now. He's just kind of chilling on his own, cutting lap after lap. He's doing consistent 45s, as are the other top two. In fact, Hins actually said his fastest lap of the race last time by, a 145.516. They've continued on to lap 46 here of this race. And they are pushing on here to keep going as long as possible. Last lap for Hins was a 45.622. So this is ultra consistent driving now from this driver. The old Henry James Racing driver here. This has been some fantastic action between these guys, although, as I mentioned, they're kind of just chilling out together, sitting in behind each other and just trying to keep this battle going. Let's look back, though, at this battle here between Doyle, Duke, Fernie and Barbera. This is a battle of all three cars, pretty much. The 8.6, the Mustang, and the Clio. So this is really, really good to see. Some good little enticing battles. We're here with Vernie in his Locked On Lads 8.6. See these pink and blue cars across nearly every league on iRacing here in Australia. Just look at the pace discrepancy that Vernie's got through those corners. That was a great run from him. Puts him up to P14 in behind Duke in that Mustang. And this battle is far from over. These guys still want to keep it going. Let's go on board with him here. See the run here through MG. Wasn't quite close enough to get anything done. Remembering that he has the advantage in those tighter sections, even against the Mustang. So we check this out here. Jason Fewens has had an incident out at turn 2. Oh, sorry, no, out at Siberia, and he just ran off the grass there slightly. Thought it may have been worse than it actually was, but still wasn't relatively too bad. Look at the pace of the Clio down the straight. He's had to pull out of the toe. Wants to try and chuck it up the inside. Not quite close enough here. And that thing is an absolute rocket ship down the straights. But in the corners, it just struggles. And I think that's also what the problem might be for the Mustang out there, is they just rocket up the inside of him. Being that it has that extra ballast and that less power, it's kind of taken any advantage away that it had. And no matter how undrivable it was before, this thing is now also just a real struggle bug as it is, with this BOP that's been put on it. So suddenly these two 8.6s of Vernie and Doyle move their way up to P13 and 14, and Duke's now stuck battling with the Clio of Barbera in behind. Been some great battles though, and it's great to see these different types of cars having some good battles on track. Lap 47 now for the leaders. They're coming up on lap 48. Are they going to come into the pits anytime soon? Surely they have to. Hins has stayed out once again, so he continues on here. Pluck has come into the pit lane though, so P2 comes in. Could this be a bit of an undercut strategy for him on Hins? Baker should get past him relatively easily. He's coming up through MG. And then 11 and 12. Pluck up on the jack still as Barbera comes in. And through comes Baker through turn 12. Pluck still up on the jacks. He's just dropped, but it's not going to be enough. His teammate's going to come past him, go up into P2 and remain provisional P1 here. The gap has shrunken pretty significantly though, although Pluck has to get up to pace. And I think that may be what we see happen with Hinds as well. 5 seconds is now the gap between Pluck and Baker. Hinds is now out on his own here up the front of the field. He's got some back markers around him here, but he's going to have to come in sooner rather than later. He can't make it to the end on fuel. It's really going to be now when he decides to come in. So we come up through Lukey Heights. He's done so well today to stay where he is. Had a phenomenal effort so far. We stay on board with him here. When does he come in? Is it now? It is indeed. So into the pits comes Hinds. He follows in. Hancock ahead of him here. Oh, under brakes. Oh, that might have been a bit of a pucker moment for him there. That was incredibly close. But he does not need a car ahead of him coming in through the lane. He comes into the box. He'll go up on the jacks. Where's Baker? Coming up through 11. So this should be fairly easy for him to get past him here. We're looking to the left-hand side of screen when Baker comes around the final corner. There he is there. Hinds gets off the jacks. Kirk's also come in. There goes the leader. Baker retakes the lead of the Tin Top Cup. It was a big gain though for Hinds over Pluck in behind. Where is Pluck? There he is. Going that extra lap may have just done him dividends. It may have given him a little bit of an advantage over Pluck in behind, but Baker takes back the lead of this race, as was expected. And he now continues on with 7 laps to go to see the checkered flag fly. It's now going to be up to him to keep this thing clean, keep it mean, and to continue on here to get his name forever etched in glory up through Siberia. Now up through Hayshed we go. Just looks so neat and tidy through here. So neat and tidy through MG. And this is what he needs. He just needs to stay cool, calm and collected. We're going to stick with him here for lap number 50 as he comes around the final corner. We'll be back after this lap. Turn up your volumes. This is a lap with the leader, Ewan Baker.
go and walk with a lap of the leader on this race. Funnily enough, Kins actually goes faster in the final sector, although Baker had the pace over him in sector 1 and 2. But there's a reason why this guy has been setting the pace all day. He was the fastest in practice, fastest in qualifying, and he has been the talk of the town throughout this race. Just a dominant performance from the Scotsman. As mentioned at the top of the broadcast, we're bringing a bit of an international flavour to the show. He's been putting on an absolute magnificent show here. Oh, big drift though. Needs to be careful to keep this nice and tidy. I don't know if he knows he's on screen or not. Don't want to have to commentate a curse him, of course. That was a big slide from him there through turn number 4. What a performance it has been from him. Just ultra dominant. As I mentioned, the talk of the town throughout this broadcast. He's across the line, lap 52, 4 laps to go. And what a performance it has been from him so far. Check out some of these battles that are happening on track. Daniel Stevens, Dale Sharp. Battle of Clio's happening here. They're just trying to traverse around some lap traffic. Behind them, Feldberg, Cameron Brown, just near them. Come up through Licky Heights now. This is the battle for P8 of this race. 2 highest position Clios on track. Show our classes. The 8.6, the Cup car, the FR 500. Baker leads the whole race, but he is also the 8.6 leader. The Cup leader is Stevens. We're on board with him now. Then Duke leads the way for the FR 500. Come down the straight. These guys will start lap 52 for themselves. It's been a good performance all round from these guys, and I think this race proved that the BOP of the Mustang may have been slightly too overpowered in terms of kind of tanking that car a little bit. I mean, yes, it can come down to driver error, of course, and how good the driver is, but I think it actually just kind of tanked it in its performances. It's already a struggle to drive, but adding that weight, taking off that power, I think maybe it would have been beneficial just to add the weight and keep it at 100% power, because it likely would have been the same scenario down the straight as the Clio, where it actually has the power advantage, but it still struggles with its handling through the other sections of track. And I don't think it actually would be out of the question to have this thing with its regular power output just with that bit of extra weight. So, although that is only speculation, of course, of how it would have actually gone. Barbera and Hancock, these guys battling hard in behind as well. The good old Clio versus 8.6 battle continues on. We've got Fewens just ahead of them now. Lap 53 has started. The leader has started lap 53. Battle between Barber and Barton. We've got Taylor in behind them at the moment. Here's the final position car as Hunter is now out of this race. We can take them off the timing tower. 24 cars remain out of 28. Griffiths, Keane, Collard and Hunter, those guys are out of it. Current running order of things from top to bottom. We've got Baker in P1 doing a phenomenal job so far. Back to Hinz out of P2, Pluck P3. We've got O'Keefe in P4, Kirk in P5, Gowans just ahead of Sheafy. This is P6 and 7. Stevens still in a heavy battle here with Sharp for P8. This is P8 and P9, and then Scotty Barton makes up the top 10.
He's in a tightly contested battle with Gavin Barber out of P11 at the moment. Sean Doyle, he's a bit further back. He's in P12. Heavy battle here with Nathan Verney in behind in P13. Adrian Duke, the highest position Mustang. He currently sits P14. Chapman makes up the top 15 in his GR86. Then we go down to Fewens in P16. Hancock P17. Barbera P18. But these positions are chopping and changing all the time as they are in a tightly contested battle. Adam Hughes, P19 at the moment. Then we've got John Snell making up the top 20. Then it's Brown, Felberg, Henry, and Taylor. That is the current running order. That is who's out on track. Who is left to go here with 1.5 laps to go. We'll stick with the leader now. Ewan Baker coming up towards turn number 4. He's edging closer and closer to 1.5 laps left. Not long to go for him now. This thing is still running all the way to the end. 95 minutes of driving these drivers have done so far. They're going to have about 1:45 left of driving when they cross the line. Maybe a bit more, maybe about 1:47. Duke will try and get out of the way of the leader here. He won't want to try and hinder him too much. Around the final couple of corners. He lets him go down the inside. Very gracious of him. Baker will rock it down. We should have Barney waving the white flag quite possibly, though he's not doing it just yet, so we might still be going here. Maybe I was misinformed on the lap count. But lap 55, we continue on. Oh no, we're actually going for a time. This must be a timed distance. I was told it was 55 laps. I believe we may be going for time distance now, about 1:45. That was the limitation. We haven't actually had the white flag, so it must be a timed race. So this should be the final lap of the race. I've not seen the white flag flown by Barney. So I believe it may have been set up as a timed race instead. Regardless though, Baker's going to come around the final corner. Check Barney. He does not have the checkered flag out, so we're continuing on. So we'd almost definitely say this is about to be, or this is a timed race. So under 10 minutes to go now in this one. We're going all the way to 1:45. So you'd almost have to say maybe 3 more laps, maybe 4, depending if we get the extra lap in. Baker going on strong. Very good job so far for his team. Race. Let's head back to one of our battles that was occurring on track. Martin and Barber. These guys fighting it out hard. This is for a top 10 finish in this race. Barton doesn't want to give it up. Barber doesn't want to give it up. They'll keep going until that checkered flag flies. They want to continue on strong. Pluck has now managed to bridge down the gap up to Hins to 0.8 of a second as well. That's the battle for P2. It's been going on for the
majority of this race as well. These guys will still be cracking on, having a good crack here. Now that sounded weird, but sometimes you've got to say something weird to keep it interesting. On to the gearbox cam now. Bart looking back on Barber here. He's not quite close enough to put the assault on. Wants to try and get it done. Can't quite do it through 2. He's trying to force this mistake. But he doesn't want to have to force an incident. That's the key. If you're trying to force that incident, you want your opponent to make the mistake and do it by themselves. You don't want to push your car onto theirs. So we come up towards Miller Corner, formerly known as Honda. These two boys are still going at it hard. These guys now just trying to get to the end. 5 minutes to go now until Ewan Baker becomes a race winner here in the Tin Top Cup for OZICAR. It's been a fantastic race so far. Been a great track choice, great car choice. I reckon it'll be interesting to see these things rolling around Sandown. Been a bit of multi-class action. What do you reckon? Let us know in the chat. Even Winton will be pretty good too. Oh, there's been an incident with Adrian Duke. What has happened to the Mustang leader? He was just ahead of Hinds. Trying to let him go and just runs it out wide. Oh, and that's taken out P3 in this race. Pluck's had an incident. That's going to drop him massively back off the back of Hinds. And I reckon Duke will be kicking himself that he's just caused that, because this is now given a massive advantage to Hinds in P2. Cameron Brown's also gone off track. This race is just starting to go off now. What's happened to him? Oh, he's just run wide at turn 2. Just runs it wide at turn 2. That's a tough one. But as I mentioned, that moment with the Mustang has now caused Pluck to drop massively off the back of Hinds in P2. It's now going to be a cruise home for him here. Just etching up onto 1 hour and 42 minutes into this thing. It'll be about 3 minutes to go. You'd have to say probably 2 more laps after this one. Baker is the leader though. He's still going on strong. Fewens into the lane. That's now taking him out of the battle with Barbera. How are we going to go all the way to the checkered flag? Lap 58. We thought we were only getting 55. We've had a bit of an extra. A bit of an early Christmas present for ourselves here. Some extra laps involved for this race. It was sold to me as 55 laps, but in fact it's gone a bit longer than that, so it's all right though. It's good to see. Baker though now going to come round MG. He'll cross the line at around about an hour and 43, so we should actually get 2 more laps. He comes round turn 12. Does well. He's done well all day. He just needs to keep it clean. Down the Gardiner Straight he comes. Hour and 43.10. So you'd have to argue it's going to be 2 more laps. Lap 59. Come on, let's get to a clean, crisp lap 60. We knew we were going to see a little bit of carnage out there today. We're guaranteed no safety cars as there is no live race control in this one. But the leader and the other drivers have done well to keep it clean the majority of this race. Kirk is now up on the back of O'Keefe, and that is an enticing little battle that is starting to form. This is for P4 of this race. Kirk's got the run down the straight on him here. They're going side by side down the Gardiner Straight. MotoGP style up towards turn number 1. O'Keefe lets him have it. We'll see here if he comes back at him over the course of the next couple of laps.
but they are not willing to give it up. We know that for sure. Here's the leader, Baker, coming up through Lukey Heights. A phenomenal job all day. One of the strongest performances I've seen in an 8.6 machine. He'll cross the line before the hour 45 is up. We will get another lap here in the OZICAR Tin Top Cup. He comes down the Gardner Straight. Barney waving the white flag. 1 to go here tonight, here this afternoon for this race. Baker's only got 4.4 Ks to go until he hoists the Tin Top Cup over his head and he tastes that simulated champagne. Through 2. Looks nice and tidy so far. Down through Stoner Corner up towards Miller. Hard under brakes. He just needs to cruise it on home. He's got a good gap back to P2 in Hinds. It's been a strong outfit for Kiwi Sim Racing. 3 cars in the top 5 right now. Baker, Pluck and Kirk. And the Scotsman has been the talk of the town all race. All session, really. Fastest in the practice, fastest in the qualifying. And he has led the majority of the laps here tonight. It's been a perfect grand slam for him. He comes down through MG for the final time. A phenomenal performance from the Kiwi Sim Racing driver. Down through turn 12 we come. And today, it was his day. It was nobody else's. Ewan Baker will cross the line to win the OZICAR Tin Top Cup out at Phillip Island. A fantastic performance from him. Hinds will come home in P2. Pluck, unfortunate in the end, but comes home in P3. His teammate Kirk has just outlasted Brett O'Keefe. Just needs to keep it clean here through 11 and 12. And it will be a KSR 1, 3 and 4. 3 cars in the top 5 here tonight. Kirk crosses the line. O'Keefe will come home in P5. It's then a Velocity Sim Lab 6 and 7 for Gowans and Sheaf. Sharp looks to just outlast Stevens here for P8, although Stevens is dropping below Barton. That's a massive drop for him. What has happened to him? I think he may have run out of fuel. We saw him come in lap 21. That now promotes Barber up to P10, Barton up to P9. I believe Stevens has run out of fuel. So he must have been expecting a 55 lap race. And that there has just ruined his hopes of what could have been a phenomenal top 10 finish for him. But it's Barker P1. Hinds P2, Pluck P3. It's a great showing from him. It was Baker in the 8.6s, Sharp in the Cup car, and then Duke. Well, he was the only Mustang to actually finish the race. I think we're going to have to do this, I think, here just for a moment. What a great race it was. bring our podium finishes in just a moment. Got Baker and Pluck in the green room. So we'll just take our race radio into mute. To keep it nice and simple for us here tonight. But it was such a great race out there. Great to see so many of these drivers have a crack and have a good little battle. We'll bring up our race results just quickly, and then we'll have our podium finishers come in for a chat. We've got all three of them in there. So let's bring up our race results here tonight for the OZICAR Tin Top Cup out at Phillip Island. Ewan Baker will finish at a P1 for KSR, just ahead of Thomas Inns at a P2 for Henry James Racing. Matt Pluck will then finish at a P3 for KSR, with Hayden Kirk coming home at a P4, just ahead of Brett O'Keefe at a P5. Doug Gowns will then finish at a P6, ahead of Tyler Sheaf at a P7 for Velocity Sim Lab, with Dale Sharp finishing at a P8 for Sharp Sim Racing. Scott Barton will then come home at a P9 for VMM Esports, ahead of Gavin Barber, making up the top 10. Sean Doyle will then come home at a P11, ahead of Nathan Verney at a P12, with Daniel Stevens finishing at a P13, just ahead of Adrian Duke in P14. Kurt Chapman will then make up the top 15 here tonight, with Dennis Hancock finishing at a P16. Giovanni Barbera will then finish at a P17, ahead of Adam Hughes out of P18 here tonight. P19 will then go to John Snell, with Cameron Brown finishing out of P20. Ira Felberg will then finish out of P21, ahead of Wayne Taylor out of P22, with Warren Henry out of P23. Jason Fewens will then be our final on-track finisher here tonight at a P24, with Peter Hunter, Ben Collard, Matt Keane and Brendan Griffiths unable to finish out there this afternoon. It's a great race for the majority of the field. We'll bring in our podium finishers all together at once, as we do love doing that. Oh, I don't have the ability to drag. Oh, well then. I'm just going to have to go down there. Hello, gentlemen. Unfortunately, I was not given the ability to drag people, so I've actually had to come and join you down in the green room. But a fantastic race for all three of you. Matt, we'll start with you, mate. We saw you get hindered up by that Mustang late in the race. That kind of then really took your chances away of being able to really put in a challenge onto the back of Thomas there in the end.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shame because Thomas was just starting to lose his tyre a little bit. I was slowly getting back to him, and I was only a tenth or two away from getting his draft. So, you know, another lap or so, I might have been able to crack at him. But, hey, Thomas drove a good race, and I think for the majority of it, he was quicker than me. He swapped positions a few times, and when he was in front, we were collectively lapping faster. So, Thomas drove well and deserved a second, and Ewan obviously blitzed us as usual.
Well, how was that battle with Thomas? Because we saw you guys pretty much swapping and changing positions for the majority of that race. You were then kind of discussing at one point how you were going to go on that entry, because on the pit entry, because he hadn't actually practiced it. But you ended up coming in a lap earlier than him anyway. You know, how did you go about, I guess, making that car selection for this race? Of course, with the BOP for the Mustang, and the Clio is stronger down the straight, but the 8.6 is stronger in the more technical sections. What was kind of your thought process when making that decision?
Oh, I don't own the other two cars, so it made it pretty easy.
Made your job easy then, didn't it?
Absolutely. It was a bit of a late decision to sign up, actually. Ewan entered a couple of weeks ago, and he kind of flicked us a message and was like, "Oh, we're doing this race on Sunday, Saturday if you want to join in." I was like, "Oh, yeah, why not?" Haven't raced with OZICAR guys before, but it was a really good race. It was well ran and really enjoyable, so I'll have to be back for more.
Well, mate, let us know who's giving you the support out there. Anyone else you want to give a shout out to as well, mate, because you well earned it coming home in P3.
Yeah, absolutely. Kiwi Sim Racing, obviously. Me, Ewan, and Hayden all part of Kiwi Sim Racing, and to get 134 tonight's pretty awesome. And our sponsor, Speed Nation, sim racing shop here in Auckland, in New Zealand. They got great stock and great range of stuff. So if you're a Kiwi, check out Speed Nation for your next upgrades.
Very good, mate. Well, congratulations on your P3 here tonight. Congratulations to your team as well on a phenomenal effort. I normally say best of luck next week, but there's no other race. It's a one-off. But best of luck in your next endeavour in OZICAR.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for doing the broadcast on late notice as well. It's awesome.
No worries, mate. All good. Well, Thomas, you were kind of given a bit of a lifeline there by not an untamed Mustang, the old crowd pleaser, taking Matthew off the back of you there, and pardon the pun for a moment here, but plucking his chances out of being able to put an assault on you for the final stint. How stressed were you, mate, in that battle for pretty much the majority of that race with Matt?
That's a 10 out of 10 dad joke. That is primo dad joke territory. I approve. Sorry, Matthew. Yeah, no, it was pretty full on. Same thing as actually Matthew. Actually, I jumped in a couple of days ago. I had sort of the space in the day today to fit it in. So, and I haven't really done a race for a while. I don't really do a lot of the races these days, so doing other stuff. But yeah, I thought, got the time, I'll jump in. It was good fun. Obviously, I saw you and I knew it'd be right up there. Just sort of tried to play it cool early on, just keep it nice and just sort of thinking long term towards the end, just stay in the pack mostly. Everyone else, a few of them were getting really aggressive early on, which is a bit interesting. I was like, well, we've got a long way to go. There's no real need to be doing anything too crazy yet. It's just as long as we're in the pack. So I just tried to keep in the pack, and then I think the way it all went, Ewan got a little bit of gap and he was able to pull away, and so then I was just trying to reel him in and sort of work with Matthew to do that. It worked out. Ewan was a little bit too fast. Pit stop was not ideal. I actually overshot my box in the pit stop as well as getting held on the pantry, so lost a bit of time there. But I think Ewan would have had me anyway because my tyres were screaming for mercy by the end because I didn't take tyres. So they were not in a good state by the end.
Well, we heard you over the radio kind of talking to Matt about your fact you hadn't actually practiced a pit entry. I then made sure to watch your pit entry once you mentioned that. And looked to be a bit of a hairy entry. You nearly came up the rear end of another 8.6 out there. Was a bit of clutching or a bit of clinching coming into that pit entry on that one? Or were you kind of just like deep breath once it happened and you'd gotten it done and then just eyes forward and hope for the best going through that pit stop?
Well, I guess two things. One, when you've partnered with Brett Loxton, my usual V8 partner, he always goes about 15 tenths into pit entries. So I kind of get used to watching him just absolutely barnstorming in every pit entry. No matter how many times I tell him to slow it down, he always is like on the edge of a penalty. So I kind of got used to seeing that, watching him. I had it all lined up and I saw the guy ahead going in, and obviously I like to think I sort of have a bit of that air of caution when I'm coming up on someone I don't really know how quick they are, to just sort of be a little more cautious. So I was ready to go in if I could, but I had a feeling he was going to be a little bit slower. I hoped he wasn't going to be quite that slow coming in, to be honest, but he's a bit more conservative than I'd hoped. But excuse me, it worked out. So it wasn't too bad. If anything, as I said, the main thing I was a little annoyed about was I overshot the pit box, just going a little too hot into the pit box, and probably cost me a couple of seconds. But as I think you wouldn't have me either way there. It all worked out in the end.
Very good, mate. Well, let us know who's giving you the support out there. Anyone else you want to give a shout out to as well, mate? Now's your time to do so.
Just a shout out to the Henry James Racing guys. Always fantastic group as always. And Henry, it was good to actually lob the 86 paint. I raced in AOG's 86 series a while back, and good to get to run it again and give it a showing once more. It's an amazing paint, like Henry's paints always are. Big thanks to Ira for putting on the race. It's always a great time, this race. Done a couple of times now. It's good fun. It's a nice little send off for the year. Big thanks to you, Hamish, for jumping in with the broadcast. Really, really well done, man. That's great to see. And big thanks as well to Matthew actually for that race, just for a great battle, and congrats again to you for the win.
Very good, mate. Well, congratulations and best of luck in your next racing endeavour through OZICAR.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Well, Ewan, a man who shares my my nationality, of course, being that I have probably one of the most Scottish names I could ever have. You were, well, you were just a league above the rest out there tonight, weren't you? You had a bit of trouble early on under pressure through those Velocity Sim Labs blokes out of Sheafy and Dougie, but once Dougie made that mistake and got off the back of you, you were just kind of released to push on forward.
Yeah, well, it was a bit of a wild start to the race. Yeah, the draft on this thing does keep everyone in a nice pack. So very exciting to watch. Very nerve-wracking to be in the middle of. I was sitting out front, hoping just to try and get a bit of a break from the guys and try and have a bit of a gap. But yeah, Douglas was relentless on his attack, and unfortunately, going into the hairpin, I overcooked it a little bit of contact, and spun him round. But yeah, after that, managed to get a bit of a break and just head down, trying to stretch away from Hinsey and Matt. I knew Thomas would be bloody fast, so it was definitely keeping the pressure up throughout that race. It was ebbing and flowing, a few tenths here and there, and especially after the pit stop, having those few tenths. I think he was pulling about 4 tenths, half a second every lap, just with the fuel drop difference from me pitting earlier. So I knew it was going to be close coming out, and I think I was let off the hook a little bit with Hinsey missing his pit box just a tad.
Well, I mean, you had the pace and the consistency to stay up the front all day, pretty much. Well, it was all day, realistically. How were you dealing with kind of getting through that traffic throughout the race? I mean, we saw it firsthand. P2 and 3 cohorts get caught up in another driver's incident. How much racing respect were you kind of given, being that you were the leader, and I would hope people didn't make it too hard for you to get past them. I mean, obviously, blue flags rules normally state you don't have to just slow down for someone. You just can't make it difficult. So how easy was it for you to keep in the battle, but also deal with the traffic as well?
It's always a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to that sort of stuff. There were definitely guys out there that would, flick the message and say, "Oh, hey, go up the inside here," or pull over and make it really obvious. So that's obviously fantastic and makes things really easy. It's harder when you're coming up against people that are battling. You obviously don't want to affect their race too much, but at the same time, it's like, I want to kind of dive up the inside of you guys and not mess things up. It's a very fine balance. It's hard to sort of keep the aggression on one hand and the patience on the other hand. It was also made difficult as well with the Clios, especially. Like, those things were so rapid in a straight line, so you'd catch up with them pretty majorly through the long corners, and then they just zoom down the straights and be gone. And if you try and dove up the inside to sort of get past them, they'd be right on your bumper again. But fortunately, I think everyone I lapped was respectful with that, and even if they did have the run down the straight, they backed off and didn't fight me for it, which was very nice. Well, I was expecting that to be a bit more challenging. Obviously, Pluck, I think, got a bit caught up with the Mustang, having a bit of a Mustang moment later on, but otherwise, it was very good.
Very good, mate. Well, congratulations on a phenomenal win. You are the winner of the 5th annual Tin Top Cup. Let us know who's giving you the support out there, mate. I mean, Pluck already gave the shout-outs to the team. It's pretty much just, unless you want to do that again, or
Yeah.
you can.
I mean, to be fair, Matt's probably a hell of a lot better at it than I am. But now, shout out to Kiwi Sim Racing. Shout out to Matt and Hayden. They're really good to sort of try and figure out the pit strategy before the race as well. We were trying to figure out, tires, no tires, how much fuel drop, that sort of thing. So they really helped get a good direction with that. Shout out again to our main sponsor, Speed Nation, and also shout out to Scott Technology and Inspire.net for their support as well. Again, shout out to you for stepping in last minute, putting on the broadcast. It's a pretty mega review to do, and big shout out to Ira for putting on another fantastic race. He always knocks them out of the park with these things, and definitely look forward to doing more of these events next year.
Very good, mate. Well, best of luck in your future racing endeavours, and congratulations once again.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming over to chat to me, boys. It was really, really good. Really, really great race to see. And, hopefully I get to call another one and see a closer battle between the three of you instead of just the two of you.
That'll be the plan. Yeah, that'll be the plan. Thanks again, Hamish.
Very good, boys. Thank you. Well, great to speak to our podium finishers there and our winner here tonight. Just to answer the question, Cameron, yes, it goes up into the live section of the channel. So once the broadcast is actually finished, it goes into if you go into the actual channel, you have like the videos and then you'll have live, and this will be in the live section when there's been live streams. But regardless, so ladies and gentlemen, that is the end to our broadcast here tonight. It brings an end to the Tin Top Cup, of course, out here for OZICAR. It was a great race, great event out here at Phillip Island. I so look forward to the next one that I get to call, if I do ever get the chance to call another one. It was great fun out there tonight. But until next time, if you guys ever want to catch any of my content here on YouTube or in iRacing Broadcasting, tonight, 8:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time over on the V8 Vets YouTube channel. I have my V8 Veterans podcast that I run for that league, Beyond the Apex. Next Sunday night, so not tomorrow, but next Sunday, the 17th, is the return of V8 Veterans for Season 18. I'll be back again for Split 2. If you guys want to come and check me out, it'll be over on the Vets channel. If you also want to check me out on the SRW TV channel as well, those guys have just hit 1,000 subscribers. I'll be over there most likely every Wednesday, starting in January, late January, for their IMSA Shadow series. Not sure if I'll be back for F3s or not. That'll be kind of discussed in the back end, what's going to go with that. But yeah, if you guys are also at Summer Nats in January, come and say hi to me. I'll be there with SRW as well. So come and say good day. I'll likely be wearing an SRW or my V8 Veterans hat, so you guys should be able to find me. If you want to follow my socials, be sure to check out my podcast. It has my socials on there for my Twitch and my Instagram. I don't have them on hand for this show, unfortunately. But thank you to Ira for the opportunity. Thank you to Jave and his internet for copping out so I could have the opportunity to do this, because without his internet going away, I wouldn't have had the opportunity. But regardless, it was great fun. It was a great race. And until next time, I've been Hamish Monroe. This has been the OZICAR Tin Top Cup out of Phillip Island. And until next time, and until I see you again, bye for now.